Centuries ago, gold was the pulse of civilization. It limited power, anchored value, and forced restraint. But restraint was never profitable. Empires learned that true dominance was not built on land or armies. It was built on debt. In the 17th century, small rooms in Amsterdam and London began experimenting with an idea. What if money didn't need to exist? What if we could promise money instead? And so, the first private central banks were born, not as protectors of people, but as gatekeepers of scarcity. For the first time in human history, debt became a product. Visual. Parchment contracts transform into binary code. Ink becomes glowing numbers. The illusion was simple. If everyone believes in the promise becomes reality. If everyone owes something, no one ever questions who they owe it to. By the 19th century, wars were financed not by kings but by bankers. And nations learned that sovereignty was negotiable, as long as the interest was paid on time. Visual silhouettes behind frosted glass tables, papers stamped confidential. They never appear on magazine covers. They do not run for office. They sit behind the curtains of global finance, whispering to governments, reshaping currencies, and deciding who sinks or survives. Their tool? Complexity. They build systems so intricate that no one can see the whole structure, not even the regulators meant to guard it. Visual, endless web of wires between glowing towers labeled IMF, BIS, Fed, ECB, World Bank. By the time the 20th century began, they had perfected their craft. The gold standard, abolished. Paper money, untethered. And now, the worth of everything was no longer physical. It was psychological. The masses believed money was power. The architects knew the truth. Money was obedience. Visual, gears turning, made of coins and digital code. Each rotation produces new notes, then burns them. Every modern economy runs on one sacred formula. Greater than create money through debt. Charge interest on that debt. Repeat forever. Governments borrow to fund promises. Corporations borrow to fuel expansion. Citizens borrow to survive the inflation the borrowing created. It's a perfect trap, because debt demands payment, and payment demands productivity. To keep up, humanity must work harder, longer, and faster. But no matter how much is earned, the system ensures more is owed. Visual, workers running on glowing treadmills that power the matrix itself. Whenever the machine trembles, a crash, crisis, a collapse, the same architects step in, not as villains, but as saviors. They print what they call liquidity. They rescue the same institutions that caused the collapse. Every bailout tightens the invisible leash. World map where borders dissolve into glowing debt lines connecting to central banks. You see flags and leaders. They see balance sheets and liabilities. To them, nations are portfolios, not people. Through international debt, they discovered a way to own entire countries without firing a single bullet. If a nation defaults, its assets become collateral, its land, its resources, its future. If a government resists, it faces isolation, sanctions, or engineered collapse. Visual scales of justice tipping, the heavier side made of gold bars marked debt. Democracy becomes theater. Elections become algorithms. The illusion of choice hides the consistency of policy. No matter who wins, the debt remains. Citizens blame politicians. Politicians blame economic realities. And the architects smile because the cycle continues exactly as designed. Cities flicker as code. Coins melt into streams of light flowing into a central core. Then came the digital age. No. Money doesn't just exist in banks, it exists in data. Each transaction, each digital footprint, each credit score feeds a network far larger than finance. The debt matrix evolved into something new, a behavioral economy. Control no longer required chains or force. It only required algorithms. If people can be guided by debt, they can be guided by fear. If spending habits reveal identity, identity becomes currency. And as central banks test digital currencies, programmable, traceable, recalable, the illusion of freedom shrinks even further. Visual. A hand reaches for a coin that dissolves into pixels, leaving only a glowing eye watching. You can't hold digital money, you can't hide it. And when every transaction passes through their gate, control is complete. Heartbeat of a financial graph, rising, falling, rising again. Crashes are not accidents. They are resets, moments of harvest. When markets collapse, assets lose value. Architects buy them back for pennies. Then, as recovery begins, those same assets multiply in worth, transferring the wealth in the hands of a few. It's not a conspiracy. Each crisis cleans the system of excess wealth among the public and reconcentrates it in the core. A city burns. From the smoke, tall glass towers rise. It feeds on volatility. The pain of the many is the profit of the few. Close-up of faces scrolling through phones, reflected in stock tickers, measure success by digits, not purpose. We chase value that doesn't exist beyond the screen. We are trained to consume, to compete, never to question. And when the system offers credit, we accept it like oxygen, never realizing it's the selective next. Freedom without ownership is an illusion. Choice without understanding. The matrix doesn't hide, it distracts. It makes you too busy to see the strings. Dawn breaking over the digital grid, cracks of light through the matrix. No matter how powerful, depends on belief. If enough people stop believing in its story, it collapses from within. The debt, it is built on our trust in paper, in digits, in promises. If that trust shifts even slightly, the entire illusion trembles, escaping the system. Maybe it's about remembering that value was never theirs to create. It was always ours. Our time, our labor, our attention. A single glowing coin splits into billions of fragments of light spreading across the world.